Hey guys, it's me, EOD Gamer here, and today we'll be counting down the top 3 4-star DPSs in Honkai Star Rail. Now every turn-based game limits its players with resources and premium currency at the start, and this video is really meant to help players find the more efficient ways of tackling challenges the game throws at us. This top 3 list assumes that a player doesn't have a 5-star damage dealer yet, but is looking out for one and wants to know which 4-star is efficient to build that doesn't end up getting benched later on and wasting tons of your resource once you get a 5-star DPS of your choice. There are no bad characters in Star Rail, and they all fulfill different roles since damage dealers are classified into AoE and single target specialties. But unlike 4-star supports in the game, which I already talked about in this other top 3 video, I'll link in the video card above, 4-star DPS characters compete heavily with their 5-star counterparts and are at a huge disadvantage since they lack the 5-star stat scaling. As we can see here from this simple Google Sheets database that I'll be building for us, and it'll be ready for use once the game goes live. But having an inferior stat line to 5 stars doesn't mean that they are useless, since choosing a good 4-star DPS actually allows you to speed up story mode progression, and this gives you plenty of premium currency you can save and select which broken 5-star damage dealer you want in your roster later on. This list prioritizes characters who won't get chucked aside or still have a role to play even with a super strong 5-star DPS. Or perhaps you want to accelerate your farm very quickly in the early game, and it's also worth investing into these characters. Let's start off the video now with an honorable mention of a free-to-play character that almost made the top 3 list. The biggest question most new players will be asking is if the main character is worth investing into. The short answer is that you have to put in some levels into MC, as the story mode, as of CBT2, requires the main MC to be at least level 25 to progress. I only found this out later on, but thankfully my physical MC was already pretty well built in my main team already. In Star Rail, character levels increase damage very significantly, and the level up materials are a scarce resource, which take up plenty of your daily stamina to grind. MC offers decent AoE damage and single target damage to clear most of the early game content up until she gets her conversion to Fire MC. After which you can simply convert her into a tanky unit and shift her relics over to a specialist physical damage dealer, making the level and gear investment into her well worth it since it's both for quest requirement and flexible in positioning. In the long run, MC could even get a healing type or debuffing class in future too. In my opinion, it's definitely worth investing for her flexibility, but since this is a DPS specific list, I decided to leave MC in honorable mention as her DPS capabilities are not as amazing as some of the other DPSs on this list. Now with this swap from physical to Fire MC, the unit in number 3 will inherit physical or attack gear very well. She's fast, she's strong, and has a chicken for her ultimate. What I like most about Sushang is that she's extremely fast and independent, since after using her ult, you can get to act again, which also charges her next ultimate. Her base speed is extremely high, being of the Hunt class, and her frequent hits breaks most enemies weak to physical very quickly. Her agility combined with decent damage makes her outclass physical MC and takes over her gear very well once you begin to build Sushang. Clara, the 5-star DPS unit, is much slower and really a semi-tank character, fulfilling very different niches to Sushang. Fitting well into a solo physical team, speed team, or really just anywhere that needs some additional damage, Sushang does very well and is very flexible to play. One downside I would say to her is that she is quite unreliable to obtain for new players, since she isn't one of the starting free 4-stars you get, and based on CBT2, she seems to be a gacha 4-star, rendering her less efficient to build than if you already got her before you converted physical MC to Fire MC. Getting her too late in your account progression might mean you already have very good damage dealers that are fast or single target in nature, such as 5-star Seele. But for those lucky enough to get her really early on from gacha pools, overall, a solid character with both efficiency, speed, and even independence. I'll rank her 3rd in the 4-star DPS category.
同点元気超無一角
Danheng has many fans already on social media, but that's not the reason why I placed him second. Overall, his kit is solid and similar to Sushang since he offers both speed and damage. In the late game, he can transition slightly to become a boss controller since he applies a speed down to the enemy if he crits. His kit scales with crit, damage and speed, which makes him very good for a single target shutdown kind of unit. But what makes him number 2 is his wind element, which uses the most broken set in the game to its fullest potential. Now let's talk a bit about this wind set. The 4-piece wind set is so good that I use it on almost every single DPS so far. Foregoing just the 2-piece effect of a bit of elemental damage bonus or attack bonus, you get a universal 10 speed and energy gain that is usable by almost every single character, making this set ultra efficient to farm since you can just switch pieces around. For example, if you needed a fire DPS to clear the content, or wind DPS, lightning DPS, and so on and so forth. I'll be making a gear guide closer to launch, but for those of you who are early enough to see this content, just keep in mind for now that this piece is the best in the game for flexibility and efficiency of farm. For Genshin players, it's really similar to like a 4-piece noblesse in the early days. And by now, some of you might be wondering, why is EOD talking so much about speed and placing an importance on it? So basically, in turn-based games, speed determines how fast your characters act in relation to other units. And especially for Star Rail, each time your character takes an action, they also get energy to use on their burst. And when you use the burst, it immediately shifts them next in line to act. I have a clip which I'll link in the video card above where I stacked speed on Kafka to demonstrate how OP speed is as a stat. But back to Danheng. Because he is wind, he uses the best set to his full potential, and likely you will also have strong gear for him in the mid game. He's a free starter character, making him very free to play friendly, but his biggest weakness really is, ironically, also being wind. Is a common element and face strong competition for the likes of 5-star Blade, who offers good single target damage and amazing AoE. But even so, Danheng's ability to transition into a speed down debuffing unit late game means he still finds play in harder endgame content. And now before we head into our number 1, let's take a look at one last character who almost made this list. This character was real close to Sushang in number 3. If you are a Genshin player, you know that any character that pairs well with Bennett is inherently meta. Hook utilizes every buff that Asta offers and uses it well. Asta provides flat speed up to team members, and for Hook's very low base speed is about a 55 to 60% speed buff for 2 turns. Hook also has insanely high base attack for a 4-star, being the second highest among all of them, and even almost equal to 5-star Seele. This allows her to utilize Asta's 50% attack buff better than most 4-star damage dealers too. Being fire, Hook also gets buff from Asta's fire damage buffing passive. There are currently 4 fire units in the game now, and Hook is the only single target fire nuke damage. Himeko is more AoE focused and will work well in a fire focused team with Asta in Hook in the endgame too. The other 2 characters are Asta and Fire MC, who are really more of supportive characters than damage dealers. And her real weakness is her slow speed with no speed modifying abilities. But like I mentioned, Asta mitigates this very well as well. Overall, a very strong 4-star fire DPS that is still relevant in the late game. What keeps me from ranking her higher is really her reliance on Asta to function properly, inherently locking one of your rosters to play a double fire, which limits Asta's insane flexibility. In a game like Genshin, you probably could get away with running double Pyro, Xiangling and Bennett for everything, but for Star Rail, you really want flexibility, especially early on in the game. As for the other 3 4-star characters, Serval, Sampo and Arlen, who did not make this list for various reasons, it doesn't mean that they are bad characters, but for me personally, I think that their kits overlap with some 5-star units too closely, and it's difficult for me to recommend very broadly. Out of the 3, I really like Serval a lot since she offers solid AoE damage with her best-in-class attack stat for a 4-star, but really competes with a similar slot as a really strong Lightning 5-star. And now the moment you guys have been waiting for, number 1. No surprises here for anyone who has been following this channel for a while now. I spoke about this just days after she was released in CBT 2, and my thoughts haven't changed since then. This unit is downright broken, and I'll be honestly surprised if her multipliers are not nerfed come game launch. her trademark Kuro Kuro follow-up skill is really just insane. Every time an enemy goes below 50%, she goes Kuro Kuro and does a lot of AoE damage. The insane part about this is that if her follow-up attack then causes another unit to go below 50%, she spins again. As you can see in the animation, she would spin twice or more than that, and so on and so forth for the number of units that drop below 50%. She scales quadratically with the number of units there are on the field and makes any AoE gameplay a joke from early to mid game, allowing you to run a single target shutdown unit like Danheng, Sushang, or even physical main MC very well as your pair. I built Hertha stacking attack since she doesn't really need speed, and in my opinion she's a solid first character to invest in. A team of Hertha and physical MC would carry most accounts well into mid game and is absolutely free to play, since Hertha seems to be obtainable for free after completing story quests. Her key downside really is in single target boss fights. But for most bosses, they tend to summon small minions, which also count towards her follow-up attacks. And as such, in a boss fight, she offers good control of sub-mobs to let your single target nukes do the work of shutting down the enemy boss, and also freezing the enemies every now and then. Ice Element also currently only has 4 units thus far, and 3 of which, 5-star Gepard, 4-star Pella, and 4-star March 7th, offer more supportive kits rather than offensive ones, making Hertha still the best in slot ice unit damage dealer for a start. If you like this video, you might like these other beginner guides right here. See you in the next video.